Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste, welcoming you all to the first session on Voxology, a subject which is very unique and picking up a lot of attention over the last one decade. So, before we understand Voxology, we will have to understand or discuss voice culture, which is a term popularly used by all vocalists. And so, voice culture has to take the first place of discussion to understand voxology so that we know the difference between the two. So, culturing is a term associated with improving, developing an existing skill of any art form or any subject for that matter. So, culturing of the voice means improving the facility or the efficiency of the voice in usage. Then, what is the difference between voice culture and voxology? Culturing is actually very individualistic when it comes to practice. What is one's own experience in the process of culturing or improving cannot be the same from person to person. But generally, in voice culture, most of the exercises are generalized and successive voices usually are taken as examples to follow upon to improve a student's voice. Here is where the major difference comes. Voxology is not a generalized practice of or for the voice. Voxology is a non clinical therapeutic approach to voice, usually conducted or applied or practiced by a trained, certified therapist of voice who is accredited to do so after his or her doctorate, a PhD thesis on vocal music of any style. So, coming to the non clinical approach to voice, which is voxology, there is a lot to understand because already there are a lot of misunderstandings, misconceptions about a very able voice in the society. So, to start with, we will have to understand the four different mandatory basic stages of voxology. So, the science of voxology is based on one, the assessment of the voice, two, rectification of the problems in the voice which becomes evident during the process of assessment. The third stage is naturally enhancing or rehabilitation. So we assess the voice, we rectify the problems, and then we rehabilitate, and finally we further augment the inherent ability of the individual's voice and thereon betterment of the voice. After the assessment, all the stages are based on vocal exercises prescribed by the voxologist and monitored by the voxologist. So these are all physical vocal drills. No medication involved unless otherwise a clinical condition of the singer or the person who is seeking voxology has to be on a medication for the clinical condition which is indirectly impacting the voice negatively. So now let us go in detail to the four basic stages of voxology. So the first stage of voxology, as we have discussed, is the assessment. So when a singer has an issue with the voice, usually the concern is, oh, something has happened to my vocal cords. I need to meet the ENT doctor. Yes, that happens naturally. But then when we realize it is not really a clinical problem, but then we have to improve the facility of the voice, which has been impaired at some point, we approach. The patient approaches the voxologist. So the voxologist asks the vocalist to sing to understand the problems.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Oh,
I have a question. This assessment of voice of a singer, has it to be done personally or it can be done, from a distance? Does the singer have to come personally to meet the voxologist?
So the most appropriate assessment is to be done in person. It is always better that the voxologist has the patient right in front, and the voxologist, he or she, watches the vocalist singing to understand if there is any wrong method of voice production, any narrowing or tightening of the jaw, which could have caused the inability or discomfort that the singer is facing. So, ideally, it is always better to have the assessment in person. But nowadays, when there are patients, we have to use the term patients because these are seekers of therapy. The patients are from all over the world, and it is not practical to have an assessment at a convenient time, the nearest convenient time, the earliest assessment possible. So then we resort to an online or a video recording of the voice, but it is not as effective as an in person consultation like any other consultation with a doctor. So that is what it is about. So, after the first stage, which is the assessment, the voxologist understands the voice, which is now under discussion, the voice from all aspects or angles. One, what is the style of the vocalist? What is her age? What is her general health? Is she or he on any medication? Is there any other body problems, anatomical deficiencies, any change in the practice duration, any change attempted in various styles of music? Has there been any vocal infection recently? Anything that can contribute to the impairment found by the singer while singing. So the impairment could be as simple as a little, aberrated voice. It could even be a voice which the singer feels has shrunk in terms of the high and the low extremes, which we say high pitch, low pitch. It could also be breathlessness while singing. These are all considered as the basic problems of voice. Something that the singer has noticed of late, breathlessness, or it could also be cracking. From all these, it could move to very serious, grave situations where the voice is not even coming out. It's very airy, it's very heavy, unable to follow the instructions of the brain. So, for all this, it's always better that there is a timely, action or the need felt by the vocalist to take help. So, after the stage of the assessment, depending on what the voxologist has understood of the voice. So, I'm very carefully using the term understanding the voice which is in need now, because the vocal system is an unseen part of the body like other internal functions. So, improving a vocalist's voice is like playing chess. We have to try out various methods to rectify the problem, because rectifying one particular aspect or one particular function of a vocalist's voice should not tamper his or hers inherent strength, which is already there. So, correcting one aspect should not become a problem to another aspect of the voice, which is very cooperative already. So, this way, after assessment, the rectification starts in a very detailed manner. So, from whatever the voxologist has understood during the assessment, various exercises or vocal drills are prescribed. The moment the word prescribed comes, it is therapeutical. It is for the individual voice. The most important difference between voice culturing and a voxologist's treatment. So, the vocalist's exercises are prescribed by the voxologist, and the vocalist is expected to adhere to the prescription of the vocal drills to the dot, as precise as possible. So, in simple terms, you can call this as physiotherapy of the voice, the vocal cords. It is for the person, only the person. It is not to be given to a group of 10 vocalists, 20 vocalists, 30 vocalists. No. There is no blanket package of exercises which can cover a huge crowd of vocalists. It is always one to one. Once the exercises are prescribed, the voxologist monitors the vocalist periodically by adding, deleting, changing, enhancing the exercises or vocal drills based on or consequent on the progress of the voice, especially in terms of the aspects of discomfort mentioned by the vocalist and understood by the voxologist. So, the first two stages, which is the assessment and rectification, are very crucial, because sometimes there are areas which are camouflaging certain other areas of problem in the voice, and these factors come up during the rectification process. That is why this stage is very crucial, where a lot of rearrangement of exercises are done in order to arrive at the most comfort point of the voice. The third stage of voxology is rehabilitation. So now the voxologist and the vocalist are moving on the same path, parallelly understanding each other's thought form and what they want from each other. Regular practice, regular updating, monitoring, etc. In the third stage, in rehabilitation, the vocalist has to now go through a process of the right method of voice production, so that the problems, the vocal issues of the past do not recur.
So, usually, how long does this stage of rectification last?
So, the duration of the period of rectification depends upon the voice problem of the vocalist who's under treatment. So, there are issues which are taken care of the least 2 months, 3 months. By then, they are perfectly all right. But there are situations like coming out of a nodules, a polyp, or a rehabilitation of some kind of a surgery. All those periods take a long time. So sometimes it's very ironic when you see the rectification process is of very short duration. But what happens is when we move to the rehabilitation process, after a few weeks, the problem recurs. There is a relapse. So then we understand that we will have to go back to the rectification stage, pay more attention to eradicating that totally regressing it, spend a little more time in that process before we start rehabilitation. Because the process of rehabilitation ensures that, which is also a specialty of Voxology, that the problem does not occur. Especially if the problem has occurred in the voice due to the application of a wrong usage of voice, which has been habituated, then we will have to come out of the habit and then see to it that it doesn't repeat, then go to rehabilitation towards the end of the rehabilitation. So within the rehabilitation, within the rectification, there are several stages. So when the rehabilitation goes to the final stage, it is when the vocalist will be sure that her or his problem, whatever has been rectified, is not going to repeat. So that is the stage which is now going to tell the vocalist and the voxologist that you can move on to enhance. So now, what is enhancement? Enhancement of the voice or voice application is to develop or improve upon an inherent voice ability. So this is the final stage. So this final stage cannot be arrived at without the assessment, without the rectification, without the rehabilitation. So these 4 stages of Voxology is very, very mandatory. So it is not, and it has to be, followed very, very diligently, because it's not like, I do get requests like, you just hear my voice and give me exercises. It should not be done like that, because it is like a field of any other practice of therapy. Because the patient, the vocalist, has to be monitored. That is when we understand that the problem should not recur, it should be permanently removed, and then the vocal system is fortified in order to avoid the similar problems of the voice. So now I would like one of you to tell me what are the 4 stages of Voxology.
Yes, ma'am. It's assessment, rectification, rehabilitation, and enhancement of the voice.
Very good. So, as we already discussed, assessment, it is better to be in person. Do you feel so?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Yes. Yeah. And what is rectification? Is it monitored by the voxologist?
Yes, it is.
It's better to be
Yes,
monitored.
Yes, it is.
Yes, very good. Have you had any experience like this with any problem in the voice?
Yes, ma'am. I've had nodules in the voice where I had to go through the same process, which I did on the dot diligently, and I recovered.
Very good, very good. So, in Voxology, one very important aspect is in the therapeutic approach to many problems of the voice rest is majorly adhered to, which sometimes many vocalists are not happy with, because they feel voice rest is a period of time when they cannot sing, when they will have to give up concerts, recordings. But when a voice rest is prescribed by a voxologist or a clinical doctor, please adhere to that, because there is no medicine for a voice problem as much as a voice rest. So, voice rest is very pivotal in any case, whether you have a problem or not. In any stage, voice rest has to be taken in case you have used your voice extensively. So, now we have seen voxology, and I would like to use the word her, because the process, I look at her as a mother's treatment to voice. So, voxology has her 4 stages: assessment, rectification, rehabilitation, and enhancement. So, that is about voxology. So, before we understand voxology in terms of her application and what are the stages which have to be maintained in a voice production technique to effect a very compatible, comfortable voice production, is an area which we have to discuss in detail. Before that, we will have to understand the voice production mechanism. So, we all know voice is produced from the throat. All of us know, even a little child knows. Voice is produced from the throat. But is that all? Are there any other function of the body which is helping in the voice production, which is called phonation? Can anyone here tell me which function in the body is very, very important for voice production?
Yes, ma'am. Is respiration an important function?
Yes, respiration is the most important function in the process of voice production mechanism. That was a very good answer. So, before we understand the voice production mechanism and its stages, we will have to understand one very important thing. As long as you're breathing from the time you're born till the time of our exit, the heart is beating. So are we breathing? Isn't it? So, when we are breathing, the inhalation and the exhalation happens, and each time the inhalation happens and the exhalation happens, the vocal cords are moving away. They are already in movement. So, the heart, the breathing, and the vocal cords are always in movement. But the movement of the vocal cords result in phonation or in voice production only if the brain sends the signals. So, the movement of vocal cords is voluntary. Is it? Only if you want to talk or sing or anything, the brain comes to give the instruction, takes the lead, so it is voluntary. But otherwise, while breathing, as long as the heartbeat is on, while breathing in, breathing out, the movement of vocal cords is called involuntary. So we are anatomically, programmed like that. So the brain is responsible for a meaningful phonation, meaningful use of the vocal cords. So that is why patients whose brain is not sound or functioning, brain dead, like those in coma, that's the only, good example for that. There is no phonation, talking or expressing, vocal expression happening from the body of a patient in coma, because the brain has not sent or cannot send the instructions to the vocal system to phonate meaningfully, to convey meaningfully through a sound. So, voice production, a meaningful voice production or phonation, is a voluntary function that comes after or along with the brain's instruction. So, what is more amazing is that all the functions of voice production, that the instructions starting from the brain, all of them happen simultaneously. There is no time delay between the stages. So the brain instructs, at the same moment the voice comes out to the desired intention of the brain. So now we will have to understand the 4 stages of voice production. The first one being respiration. Of course, it is understood that the brain has to give the instruction. After that, the first stage is, so I have to use the word after that in order to explain the stages. But let me explain again that it is not after in time, it is simultaneous. Respiration. In respiration, exhalation, the air which is coming out, gushing out, moves the vocal cords from below. The vocal cords are moving, the sound is produced. And that action is called phonation. So, respiration, in particular exhalation, phonation, and the sound thus produced moves up to the mouth, which is called resonation. Resonation. So, respiration, phonation, resonation. Inside the mouth, the sound is made more meaningful, which is called articulation. Articulation. Okay, so it is not that all the phonetic sounds like ya, ra, la, kha, ga, nya, they are all not produced in the throat. The sound which is phonated is modified, changed inside the mouth, and this process is called articulation. It is converted into various sounds to make them meaningful, which is language. Whether you're talking or singing, you have a language there. So all the sounds or the phonetic applications are produced inside the mouth. So that's called articulation. So the 4 stages: respiration, phonation, resonation, articulation. So now the question is, why do we need to understand all this when we are actually discussing voxology, which is an area for vocalists? It is very mandatory, and it is sad if you do not know or understand these stages, because if you understand these stages of voice production, you will know your voice better. You will know to analyze the strength of your voice, how to maintain the voice. For instance, you feel breathless. You have the breathlessness and you're going to sing. You're not able to sing well. So the first thought would be, is my breathless condition impacting my voice production negatively? So now that you're aware that respiration is an important stage of voice production mechanism, you will seek help to take care of your breathlessness, to get over it, so that your voice production is not negatively impacted by that. This is only an instance, but generally it is better for all of us vocalists to understand the voice production mechanism. So again, I will repeat: respiration, phonation, resonation, and articulation. So from this discussion, I'm sure you will also think that phonation is very important for a healthy voice production. The right ideal phonation or articulation has a huge role to play in a very neat application of the voice, not only while singing, even while speaking, even for orators. A tonal variation, a tonal dynamics is very important to be powerful in voice. Am I right? So these stages are very important. Now, I would like to ask you whether language has anything to play in voice production? Is language important? Do you feel so? The language we speak?
Yes, ma'am. I feel language has done a very
Yeah, very good. Very good. No, you think so? Then it is very good, because you all must have heard that certain languages are very, very, compatible for a poetical movement, which is applied in singing, right? We don't sing prose, we sing stanzas. Language also has a very key role to play in the tonal beauty or flexibility of the voice. So it is nothing to do with one language is great or another language is not great. Any language, any and every language is great. All vernaculars have their own beauty. But for singing, certain languages are very compatible because of their poetical flexibility, the flexibility in the poetical meter, and also in some of the sounds used in the language colloquially. While speaking, it contributes to the voice. I have a personal experience, also have experiences with several patients. So I'm telling you, language plays a very important role in improving your articulation efficiency. Certain languages will help you to understand and pronounce many other languages easily. So languages, all languages in the world are very good. But right now, we are only talking about the importance and the flexibility given by certain languages when applied in music. It sounds more beautiful because of the flexibility in the phonetics of that language. So that's about the 4 stages. Now, I would like to hear from one of you the 4 stages of voice production. So I'll repeat, and I would like you to repeat after me because I need to understand. So the first stage is respiration. Do you agree with me?
yes,
First
ma'am.
stage is respiration.
Yes, ma'am.
Second stage,
Formulation.
phonation.
Phonation. Sorry,
Yes,
sorry.
very good. Phonation. Third stage is resonation. Yeah,
Resonation.
Yeah. And the 4th final stage is articulate.
Articulation.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. So now we have seen the 4 stages of voxology and the 4 stages of voice production mechanism, so that you will know later on as we progress the relation between the two. In the forthcoming sessions, we are also going to see how the area of respiration is given importance, not only to rectify a problem, but also to prevent. So, since voxology is very prescriptive, in the forthcoming sessions, we are going to understand certain preventive exercises that can help the vocalist, in particular vocalist, because this field can be applied to orators, pastors, teachers, anybody who uses the vocal cords extensively, unduly abusing the vocal cords. All of them can use. But our sessions are going to focus on vocalists, and we are going to understand a lot of preventive measures in terms of breathing techniques, vocal application, voice production technique, and improving the flexibility. In terms of breathing techniques, voice application, voice production technique, and what else did we talk about? Flexibility. Okay? Yes. So, before we go into the basic exercises, we will also discuss a few factors about the voice, which is very, very important for all vocalists to have in mind. The first important point is, please understand that high pitch is a superior quality and low pitch is an inferior quality. So, generally, singers feel the ability to sing in a very high pitch is something very superior, and and those who cannot sing in high pitch feel that their voice is not that gifted because the pitch is low. Please don't think like that. The beauty of the voice lies in its resonance. So let's imagine the acoustic space is a long line. The voice that one has may be an expanse anywhere on the line. It could be on towards the higher, or somewhere in the middle, or somewhere in the lower region. One has to practice correctly, maintain the space, or improve the extremes of the space, meaning a specific space, to improve the higher region of that space relatively higher. It's a very relative term. And the relative lower space. This is the only way one can maintain the voice. If the vocalist is going to aspire to jump over a huge space on the line and practice to reach a very higher space, then the voice is going to be destroyed. The vocal cords are very, very subtle, two membranes, two small, two like lines, There is no nerve there, there is no bone there. To me, it's the most fragile part of the human body. To me. So, how can you make them work against the inherent nature of the vocal system of the body? So, there is a particular efficiency of the vocal cords for each individual, and they are never the same from person to person. The vocal system is the most unique function. There is still no transplant for the voice box. It is very, very unique. It cannot be seen, just like the face of a person. There will be some difference from one person to another. So, an individual's vocal system is unique to the body and is never going to be same like another individual's vocal system. So, that is the uniqueness of the vocal cords. So will be its efficiencies, its capacity, and its threshold of the exercises that you apply on them. So you can't say a great singer so and so is practicing for 5 hours, so I should also practice for 5 hours. Wrong. Please don't do that. Do only what your vocal cords can and need to do. Do not draw examples from everybody, anybody, or whatever you find on social media. Now that we have discussed that it is very, very unique, how can you apply something on your vocal cords which has been successful for somebody else? It is like the medication which a clinical doctor prescribes for you for any physical ailment. It's not going to be the same for all the family members. It's not going to be the same. Maybe multivitamins. But voice is not a multivitamin. You can't draw examples from that. Please treat your vocal cord as your face, your heart. It's unique to you. Then you will understand that your voice, its efficiency, its capacity is yours. And singing in a high pitch or singing in a low pitch is not the matter here. It is the beauty of your voice. What is the matter here? So that is one thing which all of us should understand. 2. If you are choosing a style of vocal music for yourself which is not habituated by your ear. For instance, now we are all here habituated by the ear to South Indian classical or North Indian classical, Indian popular music. Those who are born and brought up in India, we can generalize this way. We are not habituated to African music, unless otherwise you have been listening only to that right from birth. So, the style of music that the ear habituates to is deeply connected to the language you speak, to the society that you live in, the culture that you're raised in. So, anything other than that, if you are going to choose, you should please take care that you have the proper directions or guidance towards the warm up or preparatory exercises of that style which you have chosen. 1. 2. If you are interested in several styles simultaneously at the same time, the guidance that you receive about each style, in each style, towards each style is very, very crucial. Almost always, we come across singers who have tried different styles of vocal music and tampered with the basic efficiency of their vocal cords. So, that was the second point I wanted all of you to understand. The third point, learning a particular style by the ear, sometimes by the ear without a mentor monitoring your progress, can sometimes cause voice problems because each and every style has a particular technique of voice production. Just like the musical instruments, all musical instruments differ from each other in their playing technique. So, why won't the voice need a guidance in the voice production technique of an individual vocal style? So, the voice production technique may not be vastly different within the styles of a region, but when a totally different, non habituated by the ear style of singing can cause us aberration of the voice if not well guided at the elementary level. So, we saw about the high pitch and the low pitch and the stigma attached to that. And secondly, we also discussed the style to be chosen and the warm up exercises towards that. Yeah, we also discussed the uniqueness of the vocal system so that a practice schedule or practice method generalized by any common man or common person should not be applied on your own voice, and that we should not have any voice production technique for any style learnt by the ear. It should be monitored by a mentor, because voice production technique is the media through which you are going to bring out the musical prowess in you. You may be very good at understanding the chosen style, the knowledge of the style, the science of the style. But if your voice is not going to cooperate, you are not going to express or present your vocal talent or your skills. So these are some of the aspects that you should remember. Now, voice maintenance. At this point, I can only talk the basic approaches to voice maintenance, because later on, when we come to certain areas, along with voice production technique, I will also be covering the maintenance which is related to that stage of understanding of the voice. Please drink plenty of water. Now, the immediate question may be how much. So, it is very relative, but at least 2 liters of water, minimum 2 liters of water. More than this could be very good, but it depends upon the individual, because there are individuals who may not be or should not take more water. So, vocalists generally should drink a lot of water. When some of the patients are monitored at our clinic, we request them to go up to 3 liters. It's okay because we know the person, the individual. So, without harming the health of the person, then we decide upon. But minimum 2 liters is mandatory. It is very good if you can avoid spicy food. So, again, there are singers who can even bite into a chili and still have a beautiful voice. But please do not draw examples from these exceptionally blessed people. Spices are not good for your stomach and so for your voice, directly and indirectly. Oily food again is a concern. And there are certain food items which take a long time to digest and may cause acid reflux, which comes up the esophagus and settles in the vocal area, the throat, which causes an aberration. So then we have to think, what are the food items that does not really agree with the digestion process and which can be generalized as that? So the first food item that can be and should be avoided as a request is fine flour, which we popularly called here maida. This maida takes a very long time to digest because it has no fiber, absolutely. Takes a longer time to digest, like your pizza, burgers. So think twice. And if at all you end up eating them, see that your next 2 meals are very light. Because for vocalists, the voice is very important. Drink plenty of water to help the digestion in such cases. Then there are certain other food items which is very, very relative. We cannot generalize. So I shall just give you a few tips from my own experience. So 8 out of 10 people under study or survey have told us that the white chana does not agree with them at all. It's not that for them, at least 6 of them, it doesn't glare up, flare up and glare at you like an allergic condition. It doesn't flare up immediately, but the next day the voice is hoarse. It is just a simple standalone example. So, like this, we will have to understand what are the items which don't suit us. There are many singers who have a problem early morning if they have taken any gluten content food item for dinner, popularly wheat. So I'm not going to say wheat is bad. No, this is for certain people, and several people were found to have better voice ability in the mornings if they avoided gluten content in the night, especially those with an acid reflux, esophageal acid reflux condition. So, at random, I am covering a few aspects which are very, very important for voice maintenance. We spoke about water intake, the digestion aspect, the food items which are very commonly troubling singers. Next, we are coming to a very important aspect called sleep. How many of you have experienced a hoarse voice which doesn't cooperate if you don't sleep well?
Yes, I always experience that, ma'am.
If you don't sleep well, the voice
Yeah, the
gives you
next
problem.
morning, the voice is very hoarse and sometimes cracky thing will be there. So sleep plays a very important role.
Yeah. Any one of you here, have you experienced that?
Yes, ma'am, me too. If I don't sleep well, my voice just reacts very badly.
Yeah. So I'm glad that some of you, these professional artists around me, they have realized that. But whether they apply, I don't know. The youngsters, yeah. So you have recordings in the night. I know I can understand shows which go late into the night. But sleep is a very important aspect. And let me tell you, a long sleep in the night is important. Don't compensate during the day, it's not going to help you. The voice or the vocal system should recoup along with the other functions of the body, which are also resting during the day. Night, sorry. So, night rest is very important. So, and sometimes in Sanskrit we say sleeping during the night is Devagunam. Sleeping during the day is Asura Gunam. So, Devagunam is better to maintain the body health, also the vocal health, the health of the voice. So, we saw the importance of water, right food, good digestion, good sleep. Other than this, one important aspect which all of us should know is without a very healthy ear, hearing ability, can you sing well? You can't hear the Shruti, you can't hear the pitch. Just like a language, you habituate anything which is non-visual only by the ear. Any art, right? Especially music is a non-visual art. You can understand the style or you can start singing only if you can hear well. So, take care of your ears. Why? We have seen. Now, how? Please close your ears with a earplug if you are in a noisy environment. Very, very crucial. And when you're traveling in an open vehicle, all the more important. You may be able to tolerate, but it is harming. And I have a request. Please do not use the earphones for long durations. See, we don't have clinical survey done and examples, but I do have cases which I have studied where there are audiometric deficiencies, audio deficiencies in some people, and we have found that they have been using earphones even while sleeping. They just sleep with that on. You're taking the sound very, very close to the eardrum. Not that it's going to affect everybody, there is no proof like that, but it may affect you because as vocalists, your hearing is very, 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 very subtle and sensitive and efficient. That's why we are able to hear the right Shruti, the right frequency, and we are able to reproduce the same frequency while singing. Because we all know Shruti Mata, Laya Pita. But if Shruti is not there, what is there in singing? It's not singing anymore. So to get the right Shruti, we should be able to hear the right frequency, process it here, and then bring it out. Isn't it? Shravana, Manana, Kirtana, or even talking. So take care of your ears. You have any ear pain or infection, please meet an ENT doctor at the earliest. Do not postpone. Do not learn to put up with some deficiency in your hearing or any pain or anything. Just like water, the perfect digestion, sleep, ear is also very important. There are many singers who perspire a lot, I do, and they do get frequent throat infections and the hair and head sweating, sinusitis attacks, allergic rhinitis. So for these people, the best advice that I could give from my studies and experiments with a lot of voices is that try to wear cotton clothes, majorly cotton clothes, all the time. The entire body is breathing, not only our nostrils and the lungs. Every cell in our body needs oxygen. So please try to wear cotton clothes more, especially if you have a tendency to perspire a lot. You may drink a lot of water to compensate, but the voice gets tired faster. This is something which you will please try out and understand. It's always safe to use cotton clothes. Do not treat any throat pain, ear pain, or sinusitis pain or discomfort on your own. This is the next point. Take clinical remedy advice for these conditions, and then if you need any voice exercises to rectify a problem, then you have to meet a voxologist. But there is a clinical condition, and then you will have to go through a clinical process. Because as we discussed, voxology is a non-clinical approach to voice. Do not start treatment on your own for laryngitis or tonsillitis or pharyngitis or sinusitis, or so these, whether these are the conditions, can be ascertained only by an ENT specialist. On your own, don't do anything as part of a treatment. A very safe treatment that you can give yourself to remove pain or discomfort or nasal block is a steam inhalation from a boiled hot water, adding 1 pinch of turmeric powder. Please do not boil the turmeric powder along with the water. The boiled water can be removed from the fire, then the pinch of turmeric powder, and the steam can be trapped with a thick cloth around you and inhaled with the mouth open, not the nostrils alone. You have to alternate the outlet and inlet of air, meaning inhale with your mouth wide open, exhale through the nose, then inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth wide open. Do not go very close to the water surface when you are steaming. And do not, please, steam for more than 3 to 4 minutes. You may repeat the steam inhalation if there is, consistent pain once in 5 hours or so, once in 4 to 5 hours. But at one go, do not stay there steaming for about 5 to 10 minutes. Don't do that. So these are the things you can take care of. And one usual common question that I receive is, how good is salt water gargling? Yes, was very good, because we used to have non-chemical or not chemically processed salt granules, rock salt. That would do no harm. But nowadays, we get even the rock salt, the country salt we get may be chemically processed. So you can gargle your throat with 2 or 3 drops of honey in hot water, or again turmeric powder. If at all you're using salt, please make sure that you're using salt which is not chemically processed. So these are the major things you can take care of. We shall now move on to exercises, starting with those concentrating on breathing techniques.